This is Parker Twomey, and you're listening to the Arc City Music Podcast, live from the Barn Studios.
Welcome to the Arch City Music Podcast, live from the Barn Studios. I have Mr. Parker Twomey from Dallas, Texas. How's it going, Parker?
Good, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Shout out real quickly to Josh Zanger of All Eyes Media and all the staff over there at All Eyes Media connecting us together. And we're happy to have you today. We want to talk a little bit about your music career. And only 21 years old, is that right?
Only 21, man. But I feel like I've been around for a long time.
And even your bio, I think, kind of mentions that a little bit. It says, you know, Parker's an old soul with a young body. And even some of your music definitely reflects that as well.
Man, I do feel that way. I feel very, I feel like I am very much an old soul. And, but also I feel very like youthful in spirit too. So I try to balance the two. And I think I'm glad that it reflects in my music because I guess that's the goal, you know, to just portray yourself. And yeah, I'm glad it comes across. That's really nice to hear.
And I do think you get recognized for having a mature sound. And but I do hear a modern twist on it as well. Where do you think that maturity comes from when it comes to your music?
I don't know. I've always been very driven by, I guess, wisdom and knowledge. And I feel like I'm on a path of, I just seek like internal growth. And so I don't know, I'm sure some lyrical like maturity probably just comes from that aspect of my personality and what I'm driven by. But I'm also really drawn to more I'm drawn to all kinds of music really. But like I love Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings and that kind of old timey sound, and even like Sierra Farrells of the world that are doing it today. There's just something about the sound that they carry with them that I resonate too with, and I think kind of transcends it just transcends time, which is so cool. And it's not really that I'm trying to like do that in my music. It's just kind of when I sit down with like a guitar or a piano to write a song, it's just kind of what comes out from me.
One of my favorite quotes about, I guess, kind of what we're talking about was from Jack White. He goes, "Am I in the right place, but at the wrong time?" He's one that it comes to mind too, where it almost feels like he was born like in the 40s and 30s or something. Yeah. But I think it just, like you're talking about, I don't think it's ever something that's super intentional. It's just who you are, and it comes out naturally, I'm guessing, through your music and through your writing process.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And like, that's a fun thing to think about, because I've thought, man, maybe like, maybe I belong in the 70s or the 90s or the 50s even. But the more I've thought about it, it's like the 2020s, man, this is an exciting time to be alive. And it's really scary and like reminiscent of the old days in a lot of ways, but like the future is so bright, and it's cool to be a part of the now, you know?
I agree. I'm a lot older than you, but you know, we talk to a lot of musicians on this podcast and on other podcasts that we're a part of, and I just can't remember a time in my musical just being a fan where genres don't matter anymore. It doesn't, you label something, you know, you sort of negate them is what they always say, but you know, genres don't really matter no more. I've seen bands tour with other bands, and they're two completely different bands and different sounds. And, you know, where something might be considered, someone might consider it country music, which a lot of what you do is probably considered that, but you just push the boundaries, you push the genres, you push the labels.
Yeah, I love that. It's very like freeing in that way. and honestly, like, I come from such a folk background too. It's I mean, really, folk music is kind of where I started. It's what, like, the Elliott Smiths of the world,
Sure, yeah.
the even like Ben Queller,
Yeah.
and then on an indie side of things, like there's this band out of Denton, Texas called Centromatic that I grew up kind of. I mean, my dad introduced me to a lot of these musicians that I'm naming, and my parents certainly had a huge impact in my musical taste, which is really cool to me. But yeah, it was like my foundation is in this like indie folk area, and I got into country as I was a little bit more developed musically, I think, and I think it was at the perfect time because I had maybe been like more refined melodically, and then like finally, okay, I can understand what the content that these guys are singing about. It's like very storytelling oriented, which I took to immediately. You know, the Jason Isbells, the Tyler Childers of
Yep.
the world, and yeah, and now it's just kind of like a melting pot for me. But yeah, I like the idea of constantly evolving and never really putting myself in a box.
You have been out on tour with Paul Cauthen, and I think even have some more dates coming up.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go out to the West Coast next week.
Yeah.
So
And we were talking off air. We just missed you. You guys just came through St. Louis a couple weeks ago, I think maybe at the old Rock House. Are you sort of pulling double duty? Because I know you do, you know, some musician, you play some guitar or keyboard for him or whatever it might be, but then sometimes you'll play your own songs.
yeah, so I've been playing keys and guitar with Paul since I started in 2019 with him. And as of lately, he's let me open a few shows, and we've talked about playing a couple songs like in the middle of his set. So Paul's been the coolest, man. He's like he really is a big brother to me, and he's shown me the ropes. And just touching on a little bit of what we were talking about earlier with like genre bending, he's another great example of an artist that I feel like has successfully kind of defied the odds. And it's like, as far as genre is concerned, because he's merging a handful of them together, and so in that sense he's been a great example to me as well. But yeah, man, he's been the coolest, and he's a big believer, and it's cool to be a part of his journey too.
Has he been, you know, does he play sort of a mentor role in your life?
He does, man. I mean, I had never been out on the road, at least like I have been the last few years before Paul asked me to join his band. So he's shown me the ways, man. He's shown me, you know, how to tour, and he's a big personality too, which is just a lot of fun to be around. And I mean, it's I wouldn't trade this time in my life for anything. I think it all happens for a reason, and I am excited to fully embrace my career and all of that. But it's definitely been cool to just kind of take a band member role, as opposed to immediately just jumping into like the front man, you know, and being in Paul's band has been really special for me.
Yeah, and I've sort of heard other musicians that have that experience as well, and found it to be very helpful, almost like, you know, if you kind of use the analogy of like sports, you know, major league sports, sort of having that the leagues before you get to the major leagues to try to you know, kind of tighten up your skills or your songwriting or whatever it might be, or just that those experiences are so beneficial sometimes to people's career.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. It's cool, man, because like right when I started with Paul, he was still playing these real small rooms, and I feel like I witnessed him go from, you know, 20 people to 60 to 120, and now we're, you know, I mean, we just played the Ogden Theater, and he sold that out. I think that's like 1,600.
Oh wow,
people.
Super
And
cool.
so it's like, dude, yeah, it's just like, man, okay, like this is kind of how it happens, and
yeah,
and then I'm gonna, you know, eventually go back and start at that 20 people level with me, and it's cool too to just kind of know what I'm in for, and I've seen it now. And I think now it'll really allow me to enjoy the process and enjoy the slow burn in a different way.
Yeah, sort of maybe be a little bit more patient with it, I would guess. Because you do see that growth with Paul, and I bet that's cool to witness, to see that.
Yeah, it has been cool just kind of taking that back seat and watching Paul, man, and I he's got a huge upwards trajectory still ahead of him. I think he's gonna go to the moon, and it'll be cool to do that, on my own too. But yeah, what an amazing life so far, man. It's been a wild ride, I will say.
Yeah, and I'd say in the next couple of weeks, it's going to maybe even get a little bit more wild. You have a new album coming out that's going to be out July 15th, All This Life. You want to tell us a little bit about All This Life? Yeah,
man. All This Life, to me, it's kind of my coming of age experience, just love and pain and self-reflection, and yeah, it's like my spirit and my soul I just poured onto a canvas that y'all can listen to in a weird way. At least the first 19 or 20 years of my life. I wrote all the songs pretty much between 2017 and 2019, and we got in the studio at the Echo Lab in Denton, Texas, and I worked with Matt Pence and Bo Bedford. They're my producers, and Matt Pence pulled triple duty. He's a producer and engineer. He mixed the record, I guess quadruple duty, because he played drums on it too. And he's a G. And then Bo Bedford, he produced and played keys, and I had written all the songs and put a lot of energy into them. I brought them to Bo a few weeks before we got in the studio, and we did some pre-production together. And the process was so easy, man. We'd get in the studio for a few days and we'd knock out half the album, and then I'd come back a month later and we'd knock the other half out. And the players, they were great. Charlie Wiles on guitar, who also plays in Paul's band with me as his guitarist. And Scott Lee, he's playing the bass. He plays for the Texas Gentlemen too, and I think he's doing some stuff with Brian Bingham. And just it's man, these players, it couldn't have been more perfect. Matt Combs, he's playing all the string arrangements, and I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. That'd be terrible. Randy Merrill mastered it, and Jake Greenberg assistant engineered it, and he's a good friend of mine, and he plays bass now in Paul Cawthon's band. So the crew is man, it was so cool. The songs mean so much to me, and I hope they mean that much to y'all when you finally get a chance to listen to it on the 15th. I'm just over the moon, man. I couldn't be more excited to get it out, and I'm just kind of working away at the second album now too. So yeah, just trying to keep things in a forward motion.
Yeah. So you've pre-released a couple singles already. Do you care if we take a listen to a few of these real quick?
Let's do it, man.
All right. We're going to start with Counting Down the Days. Here we go. So that's Counting Down the Days. Such a driving rhythm on that one.
Man, that's a really fun one to play.
I bet.
I love that.
I bet. You know what I'm most impressed by that is I actually saw a YouTube video. I think you guys did it at Modern Electric Studio, where you did just an acoustic version of it. And your falsetto on the acoustic version sounds so different from what the studio sounds. It almost sounded like two different songs. Is that something that comes natural to you?
I did that partnership with Stetson, and we did like the live video Modern, and I was like, well, I could do this, you know, how the album does it, but I think it would be cool to have like an alternate version for people to listen to. And I've always enjoyed, just as a fan of other musicians, when some of my favorite artists do that. So yeah, I guess I thought that would be kind of fun. Man, that song's so much fun to me. And it's a unique song in a way that, like, I wrote it. I think I actually had the song in 2017, and like I had rewritten it so many times. And hearing it now, it's like it's just taken so many different forms of evolution. But it's a fun one. I was stoked when I heard Pence kind of kick into those drums, and I had an idea of what I wanted it to be like, but seeing it come to life in the studio and now on Spotify and Apple Music, it's weird because, like, you know, it's one thing to like see your art like come to life in the studio, but when you release it on like a platform, it's almost like it almost sounds different because it's like finalized in a way. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but like it's a cool process. And that one was a really fun song to write.
Love that one. When you play it live, is it which version does it take on?
Well, it depends. I think typically when I play that one live, regardless of if I'm playing it with a full band or just solo, I tend to drive it and kind of keep that upbeat thing going, especially because a lot of my other tracks on this record tend to be more mid-tempo. And well, I don't know if technically Counting Down the Days is mid-tempo, but yeah, I like to drive it. And but I don't know. I mean, I guess if I was in a listening room, like, man, if someone threw me in the Ryman right now or something like that, I would probably play the more intimate version. And then so much of that would also, I guess, depend on what mood I happen to be in that moment.
And what is your writing process like? Does it start off with you and an acoustic and, you know, fumbling around trying to find some lyrics or vocal melody, or what's that like for you?
It's kind of it's constantly changing, but lately I've really liked writing like my lyric and my melody simultaneously, almost like a stream of consciousness. But I have written like melody first or rhythm first or lyrics first. I think for Counting Down the Days, I had the skeleton of the song in terms of like chord progression and melody first, and I went back and re-chiseled my lyrics in. Yeah, I guess there's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's just kind of whatever mood I happen to be in, or it's different too. Like if there are times in my life when I'm just reading so much, and it's like my stream of consciousness is just so active, and it might be easier to write that way. And then there are times when I don't like to say that I ever hit writer's block, because I don't like to put that out into the universe.
Yeah.
But there are certainly like dry spells, and then during those times I might just stock up on 10, 15 melody ideas that I'll come back to later and rehash out when I feel the inspiration.
Probably a pretty good idea.
Dude, if you saw my voice memos app right now on my phone, it's insane, man. I have like 10,000 memos. It eats up all of my data.
Yeah, sort of have a stockpile for when things get a little dried up, like you said. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea. Can we hear another one here?
Yeah.
Let's hear I'd Be Your Man.
Get higher than the mountains you claim, would you lend a hand? Would you call me by name? Do you know where I stand? I'd be your man when I'm not around and nobody's there to let you down. Do you know
And when we're talking about, sort of a nostalgic feel to it, I feel like that's just such a modern twist on a classic sort of country folky sound. That's the one that comes to mind.
Man, I'm glad. That feels that song just feels like a euphoria to me when I sing it, and that's cool, man. That's really cool.
In one of your press releases or some press coverage that you received, I saw that somebody said the track having nostalgic and dreamlike production, and I thought that was definitely a way to nail it. But it's weird that it said dreamlike production because it actually reminds me of like the Everly Brothers. All I Have to Do Is Dream. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that song or not, but it has just this like flowy, almost atmospheric feel and vibe to it.
I love that. I love that that you feel that way. And I mean, definitely the first time I listened to it back after we recorded it, I was so thrilled about it. I have, going into the studio, I really wanted to accomplish like a celestial sound almost, I guess. And I feel like we did. And like just between the instrumentation and the writing, and then just the energy and the soul of like everyone who was involved. Bo played mellotron on that, and I think that gave it like some airy qualities. And then Bo and I both went up to Nashville and worked with Matt Combs, who I mentioned earlier. He played strings, and the arrangement that we came up with and Matt's touch and his whole vibe that he just threw on it, it was just perfect. And it was a fun process, and I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah. And the strings definitely, I mean, they always do, but they add just an extra element to it that just gives us this production value that you don't find a whole lot, But then also you can hear how you could easily strip that down, just like we were talking about with Counting Down the Days, how you could strip that down and it could just be you and acoustic easily. And I'm sure it's just as cool that way as well.
Yeah, I think I've never actually played it live with strings, and I would love to one day. But yeah, it is a different vibe when I play it acoustically versus we've played it with like a mellotron before, doing strings on that, and it's still dreamlike, but yeah, it's definitely a different vibe live. Both good vibes.
We are joined here with Parker Twomey, and his album All This Life will be out July 15th. We're all going to rush out and get it. It's basically where all music is, right? It's available everywhere music's available.
Yeah, it's on all the platforms.
Yep. I know you're going back out on the road for a bit. What's the plan for like the rest of the year, the fall and the winter?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing a lot of touring with Paul Coffin, still playing keys and guitar, and then opening whatever shows I can, and then Paul is gonna have me play some songs in between his set too, which is gonna be cool. And then there's a lot of off time, and so we're looking at some shows, some light touring for the record, and I'm hoping to get back in the studio before the year's over and start cutting my second record. Honestly,
yeah.
I've just been writing so much, but yeah, I mean, a lot of cool opportunities and stars have been aligning, and it's just kind of like taking things as they come and putting things out into the universe. And yeah, it's I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I think I hope the album, I can visualize it. I hope it does as well as I can visualize it doing, but I also hope that everyone that gets to hear it enjoys it. And who knows where I'll end up, but I'm working hard, and I hope this record will thrive in a way.
We're definitely digging what's out now. So if you have Spotify, go on there. You can listen to Counting Down the Days, I'd Be Your Man, Till the Morning Comes. Those are released now. They're a part of a bigger collective piece, All This Life, that's going to be out July 15th. We have Parker Twomey with us on the Arch City Music Podcast, live from the Barn Studio. You can go to parkertwomey.com, get all of his information there. And again, we want to thank All Eyes Media for setting up this interview. And Parker, we appreciate your time.
Man, thank you for having me.
still